Well, on Golden Pond, you have a lot of specific considerations to start to consider. One is, in particular, the idea of Maine. And Maine is something that I'm not really familiar with. I haven't been there since I was much younger. And so for me, starting with kind of the macro level of finding out what Maine is like, the kind of woods that are there, what the lakes are like, at a very broad level, and then digging deeper into the idea of what this second home, this home in the woods, should represent for the people in the show, and how to communicate that the very particular kind of flavor that is that kind of summer cottage, which is a lot of warm wood, a lot of a hearth I thought was a good presence in the house, and then how to start to suggest all that within the confines of the Grandel Square, which is a pretty small theater. It looks big, but it's really not. And combining all those elements together, and then particularizing the particular dressing elements in the set to the characters. Those are always considerations in a play, but for on Golden Pond in particular, because that is the environment that we see at the entire play, it really needs to be set in stone up front. That's really the big thing. You'll always start reading a script. I mean, you find these words on a page and this story that wants to be told. And so starting with reading a script and then a conversation with Lorna, and Lorna and I have worked together for probably close to 20 years now, I think. And so some initial conversations with Lorna, and Lorna does a lovely job kind of giving us a nice outline of her vision of the show. And then a lot of research. I do a considerable amount of research, collecting images of the environment, particulars about the interiors that I'm looking at, the exteriors that I'm looking at, even if I'm not showing them, just so I know what the architecture of the place is supposed to be. And then digging down into very particular elements. We're in the 70s, and fortunately I lived through the 70s, or unfortunately, however you want to take that, and finding those ideas so I can communicate effectively with the prop master and the scenic artists about the very specific elements that we need to capture to present that time frame for the audience. And then I go into sketching, and little scribbles really is what I start with. And I kind of combine those things together into kind of I digitize it and combine it with three-dimensional digital models, and then work on top of that, and then end up with a physical model that I build, usually 2 or 3 iterations, and then at the final kind of firm up the digital model and produce 2-dimensional drawings for the shop to build from. So and that's pretty standard anymore. Well, after I get a set of documents together and I get it into the shop, I've got a series of conversations, one dealing with pricing with the technical director, who yells at me quite often that it's too expensive and we need to trim down. And fortunately, after 30 years, I've gotten pretty good at getting pretty close. So this one was nice. Doug, the technical director, kind of settled into it. We had a few conversations about utilizing some stock elements. And I go into the shop periodically to talk with Doug and to talk with the scenic artist and look at color samples and look at the process of the paint job on the set. I have a lot of conversations with the prop master about the particular elements, dressing elements that are going to be integrated into the final look. And quite often I go out and do a little bit of shopping, mostly for furniture, for big items, which is kind of fun, and there's a lot of great resources in the St. Louis region to go out and shop, and I'll be doing some of that for this show to try and find the couch, his overstuffed chair, and a couple of rockers and things like that. So, and it's kind of fluid. It really depends on the particular dynamic of the show, but this one in particular, there's a lot of dressing items that need to be found. So I'll be doing some shopping to make that all happen. I really want them to feel that they're walking back in time a bit, and that they're looking into a private retreat, somewhere that is off and away from the beaten track, and is in some ways the hearth, like I said, was an important part of the design for me, where that kind of enveloping, comfortable nest has been set for our characters. And hopefully, as soon as they walk into the Grandel Square and they see the set under some preset lighting, they'll start to relax and get back into that kind of feel, so that they're ready to hear the story that we're supposed to tell here.